if the bitter truth is that we all have an expiration date, what is it that we want to leave behind? How are we functioning in the world today so that we are never forgotten? And, one way it's interesting that we're talking about this today. Some people view books and writing as a way to immortality because you can perhaps put yourself in the book and leave it for the world. And do you view books that way? Do you feel that authors use the books as a way to gain that immortality?
Well, I don't know if they, well, maybe they do in a way think about it that way, because we've published a number of memoirs and biographies which are pretty directly, this is a legacy thing. But almost all of the memoirs or biographies we've published have a lessons learned. So, for example, we published a book recently called I Should Not Be Here by Karen Gerson. And she struggled with trauma, abuse, OCD, and somehow came out the other end. And she wrote the book. It was difficult, but her children said, oh, we had no idea. Her classmates that she went to school with, she was an A student and an achiever. We had no idea. So I think books, almost in any format, are a legacy item. I think about this often. I wish I could read something my grandfather or grandmother wrote. There's nothing. And even though I write thrillers and fiction, although you did mention I have a children's book that I was inspired by my twin grandsons, and actually they collaborated on the story with me. And I had to write it down and found a wonderful illustrator, although there is a drawing by one of the boys in the back. But that's something I think they'll always remember. But my thrillers even, there's so much of me in the stories that, it's someday my grandkids, when they're old enough, will read them, because they are adult books, and there's some nasty things happen. There's a very bad villain. Will say, oh, well, that's what my crazy grandfather was like. And they will, in a way, know me through my books long after I'm here. And then hopefully the people that I've helped publish their books and realize those dreams. We had an author last fall who had stage 4 cancer, and he wrote a memoir, and his goal was that book be published while he was still here.
Wow.
And it's a wonderful book. The author's name is Robert Fuller. He grew up in Vermont. He started successful restaurants. He drove his motorcycle across the country. He lived a crazy wild life through the 60s and 70s. So it's kind of a chronicle of that time as well as his life. And we hustled to get it done. And last fall, we were able to publish the book. And he had in his head he was going to write more, but he only lived like 2 or 3 more months. Like 2 months ago, he finally passed away. But his wife shared how meaningful that was for him, and for us to be able to give that gift was very gratifying.
I love that. And I think for myself, Charlie, the book was a way to leave some of those lessons that I've learned behind in the pages. And I could talk about it, my experience growing up in Africa, my heritage from my woodworker family, and using all of that. And these are things that, you really don't get a chance to tell people, but I could relate through the pages of the book. And so for me, it's a way to pass it on. And so that when people sit down, they can maybe live that history, in those pages.
Well, a key thing too, Kavin, is that you're a wonderful storyteller. Had your book just been, oh, have this, have this, have that, and be healthy, no one would be interested. But you put a context around it, your experiences in Kenya, your experiences growing up, your family. People love stories. I'm all about stories. And if you can tell a really good story, then I'm along for the ride. And in books, I don't care what the genre is, the number one thing is people will have to want to turn the page. If you don't want to turn the page of the book, well, then all is lost. There's no point. So it can be a fiction thriller. It can be Primal Health Design. It can be Not So Dead. If you don't want to turn the page, you're lost. And your book is a page turner. And I think in large part it's because of the stories, and then you impart what you've learned and how it could benefit me and the other people who read the book. And we try and instill that and kind of make sure that happens with the books that we collaborate on.